Boxing Day, 1996. A red bicycle, brand new, still smelling of plastic and Christmas paper. A quiet housing estate on the edge of Birmingham, its windows glowing with fairy lights. And two boys, walking into the dark, who would never be seen again.
No bodies. No confession. No answers.
Just two faces, printed onto millions of milk cartons across Britain, staring out from breakfast tables while the rest of the country ate their cereal and carried on. They became known as the Milk Carton Kids. And nearly 30 years later, their disappearance remains one of the coldest, most haunting unsolved cases in British history. Tonight, we are going back to Chelmsley Wood. Stay till the end, because the man police believe holds the answer is still alive. He is still in prison. And he has never said a word. Chelmsley Wood sits on the eastern edge of Birmingham, in Solihull. In the 1990s, it was a sprawling, working-class estate. Rows of terraced houses, corner shops, kids who played out until it got dark, because that was simply how childhood worked back then. Patrick Warren was 11 years old. His friends called him Paddy. He was small for his age, cheeky, full of energy. Just days before Christmas, he'd been given a red Apollo bicycle. It was his pride and joy. David Spencer was 13. He was Paddy's best friend, a couple of streets away. David loved boxing. He was known as a live wire, a boy who'd had his share of scrapes, the kind of ordinary trouble many working-class kids got into. But by every account, he was fiercely loyal and fiercely protective of his younger friend. Two boys. Two very different homes. One unbreakable friendship. On the 26th of December, 1996, they spent the day together, the way they always did. Riding bikes. Roaming the estate. Nothing unusual. Nothing that suggested this day would be any different from 100 others. By late evening, David told his mother he was going to stay the night at Patrick's brother's house, just a short walk away. It was a normal arrangement. Nobody thought twice about it. But the boys didn't go straight there. Instead, they lingered. Paddy rode his new bike through the estate. David walked alongside him. Together, they drifted through the cold December night, past houses lit up with decorations, past neighbors locking their doors for the evening. At some point, close to midnight, they made their way down a hill and crossed towards a petrol station near their homes. And that is the last confirmed sighting of David Spencer and Patrick Warren. Two boys, walking into the darkness of a Birmingham winter. After that moment, the trail simply ends. No struggle was reported. No screams were heard. No witnesses came forward describing a car, a stranger, a fight. They were just gone. Vanished from a busy estate on one of the coldest nights of the year, as if the darkness itself had swallowed them whole. When the boys failed to come home the next morning, their families raised the alarm. At first, police treated it as nothing more than two boys who'd stayed out too late. Officers told the media there was no reason to suspect the boys had come to any harm. Days passed. Then weeks. The case slowly transformed from a routine missing persons inquiry into something far darker. In the spring of 1997, something unprecedented happened in Britain. Inspired by American campaigns, the faces of David and Patrick were printed onto millions of milk cartons distributed across the country. It was the first time this had ever been attempted in the UK. Families ate their breakfast every morning next to the eyes of two missing boys. That single image is why the case earned its haunting nickname. But for all the publicity, answers did not follow. Searches of the estate turned up nothing. Appeals brought no credible sightings. As the years dragged on, critics began to ask an uncomfortable question. Had police moved quickly enough? Had two working-class boys from a council estate been given the same urgency as other missing children cases that dominated headlines? It would take almost a decade, and the tireless work of an investigative journalist, before the case saw its next major turn. In 2006, a journalist who had followed the case since 1996 compiled a private dossier and handed it to West Midlands Police. Her research connected the disappearance to a convicted killer named Brian Field, a man who had lived and worked close to where the boys vanished. It was a chilling connection. Field was already serving a life sentence for the abduction, rape, and murder of a schoolboy named Roy Tootle, a crime committed decades earlier in Surrey. Investigators discovered Field had been living in the Chelmsley Wood area at the exact time David and Patrick disappeared. The dossier forced police to finally reclassify the case as a murder investigation. A new search was launched. But it yielded nothing. Field was interviewed. He denied any involvement, and has continued to deny it ever since. Without a confession, and without physical evidence, no charges could ever be brought. To this day, Brian Field remains a named suspect only, never convicted of any crime connected to David and Patrick. Then, in 2021, a new lead emerged. A tip-off claimed that Field had once been seen filling in holes on wasteland near Solihull Moors Football Club. With police reluctant to act, David's own brother, Lee O'Toole, made an extraordinary decision. He picked up a shovel, gathered volunteers from the local community, and began digging himself. For months, ordinary people combed through the earth, searching for any trace of the boys their police force had failed to find. A jacket was recovered from the ground. Hope flickered. But ultimately, the dig produced no breakthrough, no remains, no closure. Since then, other sites have been searched, other tips followed, other doors quietly closed. And still, nearly 30 years on, two families are left with nothing but questions. Somewhere in Britain, two mothers spent Christmas without their sons for almost 30 years running. A brother has spent his entire adult life digging through frozen ground, refusing to let his sibling become a forgotten statistic. Brian Field remains behind bars for a different murder entirely, and has taken whatever he knows, if he knows anything at all, and kept it locked away. Whether he holds the truth about that Boxing Day night, we may never find out. David Spencer and Patrick Warren were somebody's children, somebody's brothers, somebody's best friends. And somewhere, the truth about what happened to them on that cold December night is still out there, waiting. If this case moved you, if you want to see justice finally reach two families who have waited a lifetime for it, then subscribe to this channel. We uncover Britain's most haunting unsolved mysteries every single week, and we never stop asking the questions that others have given up on. Turn on notifications so you never miss the next case. Thank you for watching.